Good morning, all. I'm Dr. Pooja Ahuja, Associate Professor, Gujarat Forensic Sciences University in the field of forensic science. I welcome one and all to Gujarat Forensic Sciences University live webinar series 2020. Practically, this is our first session on forensic audio and video authentication. Today, we have amongst us is Ivan SIPAROV, who has attained a degree in MSc Physics from St. Berg State University, Russia. He has also worked as a government forensic audio and video expert of Russian Ministry of Justice and university invited professor for MSc Forensic Science program. He has a vast knowledge in theory and practice of forensic audio examination in South State University and Central State Linguistic University, Russia. Started as a training manager, he is a software manager and a forensic private audio expert in Speech Technology Center in 2006. Since then, he has been working with companies like Fornax and Contact for Moscow and Poland companies. In 2012, he joined Acoustic, which is a Ireland-based company, commercially focused on hardware solution for surveillance, audio-video professional recordings, and forensic audio investigations. He also supplies and gives a trademark in government agencies. Since then, he has also worked with many universities and government forensic science institutions over the world and has been invited for practical studies on applied audio forensics. In 2017, he joined in Government Forensic Audio and Video Expert and in Northwest Regional Forensic Examination Center for Russian Ministry of Justice. Dating from 2007, he has performed more than 900 cases in forensic audio examination and testified more than 50 cases for the court examinations. Author and reporter of many articles and conferences in European Network of Forensic Science and Institutions, we welcome Ivan to give an extremely knowledgeable and practical session on forensic audio and video authentication. Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you very much, Madam Pooja, and very welcome to us to our webinar today. I'm very glad to welcome you today, and thank you for this opportunity to share some ideas and about the audio and video forensics. And I would like to thank GFSU and Dr. Pooja and Dr. Sudi in person just for this opportunity. I believe that as I see from the list of participants, there are people that I know and we are acquainted, and that means that, of course, something of what we will talk about today was discussed already, and I'm very glad that you are here. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for coming. Those who just want to start this. Start to learn about media forensics or wants to learn media forensics in GFSU with the Master of Science program open there. So I think that our webinar today, our talk today will be divided into several parts. I think that it will be three main parts. These are first part will be about methodological issues, and we will talk about what kind of question we have to solve and what kind of information we have, and about what are the traces of breaking of the continuity of the recording of the reflection of the crime scene onto our media, onto our media carrier. And after that, we will proceed with the features of audio editing that can be extracted today and that can be analyzed today during the examination. And then we will proceed to video. So well, I believe that we work in the most interesting field of science. So this is like a intersection of the science itself, of physics and of digital forensics, and of um, the intersection of physics and communication between people. So the crime itself that happens, uh, it takes, mm, it is about the communication between people. It's about the relations and in the society. And then the court has to decide what kind of, what happened actually. And then we come for help. So I think that this is a most exciting area of the studies, and I will be very glad for your questions during this presentation, and so I can answer them later on. And mm, please just uh, maybe expect something like technical in the between in the middle of our webinar, because of course it requires some information. It requires some knowledge about how the audio and video is recorded, and maybe sometimes it will be a little bit very technical. Anyway, I believe that this is also very interesting stuff to discuss, and I would like to focus on that.
Ivan, just a second.
Yes,
Ivan,
please.
just a second. Miss Poonam Singh, kindly switch off your video. Thank you. Yeah, Ivan, you can continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will switch to my presentation now, and just a second, and then I will start with the discussion, with the methodological discussion. Okay, is it finally seen now?
Yes, even we can see it.
Okay, great.
Sir, please off your video. Chandrasu, sir, please off your video.
So we will start with the very simple idea about what is the task, and what is the our purpose, and what is the purpose of the court and of the judge. So since we get the audio video evidence, a media file in our case, we need just to know whether this information stored in this file is intact. So it means that anyone can take this audio video file, and today there are a lot of different software applications that allow to edit, to manipulate, to tamper, to make a fraud of the initial file. And the most of these software applications, they are designed for these purposes. So they are designed for the purposes of accurate editing, for the musical purposes, for the video presentation purposes, and so on. So it seems that from the very beginning, it is quite easy to delete something or to change the order of the acoustic or video events in our recording, and so on. And but the only thing that we have is the reflection of the data from the crime scene. So we cannot attend the crime scene again. So it have already happened. And then the only thing that is left, this is this trace, the reflection. And now we have to get the idea to get confident about, to get sure about that there are no any introductions in there. There are no any changes in this information and so on. And what can be done for that is, of course, the extraction of traces of this kind of actions. But this is, well, this is not all. This is like a start. And the problem for the expert is that he or she stands on the data that is not full from the very beginning. So forensic approach differs from the scientific approach exactly in this point. Uh, Scientific approach can use a full amount of data. So scientific approach allows us to build any hypothesis about and predict some actions and some events in the real world. In this case, in the forensic approach, we don't have any kind of possibility to go back to the crime scene and to see how this event or that event or this process or that process, how it reflected in our recording. And this is a huge problem because authenticity itself, well, this is the correspondence of the facts that are recorded, that are listed in our audio or video file, the correspondence of these facts to those that have taken place in the real world, in reality. So since we do not know, none of us, not the judge, not the expert, none of us know what happened in the real life. We have to deal with the trace, and we have to inspect the continuity of this trace creation, of the creation of the reflection, the continuity of the reflection. We have to judge about it just by the properties of the recording. So what I want to say is that from the very beginning, this task of media forensics, well, this is the task. This is not a scientific task, first of all, in general words, but secondly, we are not, we don't have full data always. So we can even come to the same crime scene and make just the same recording, but we cannot reconstruct everything that has taken place in the real world. And this, of course, puts some limitations on the authentication and on the question about whether we can trust or we cannot trust to the evidence, and whether we can consider it, this file as evidence. So as it written in my slide, just to the lack of information, we have to evaluate the continuity of the trace creation. So once again, the information is not full. So that means that the only way just to get sure about that the audio was edited or was not edited, this is to know how the recording is created, what kind of what is the process of the recording itself, how the analog audio signal, analog video image, how it is recorded into, and how it is recorded, and how it is going to become a digital file. And all the features and peculiarities of this process shall be investigated during our research. And that means that always the only source of the confidence is the expert competence in the field of recording. So the methodological issue that we have discussed already, this is the basis that doesn't allow us to create such a system that will say with one click whether the file is authentic or not, whether it is original or not. It is always will be some impact of analysis of a human, of an expert, to get the idea about the integrity of the audio or video file. So the only way is just to study and to get more information about this, and investigate and research new methods, develop, create new methods of analysis that helps us to review those features that were not reviewed previously. So I think that this is an endless road, and also this makes me like this seems to be fine, a good task to go, a good, interesting uh, way of living. So once again, what is the conclusion from these first two slides that I shared, and what is the conclusion of this discussion? The conclusion is that, practically speaking, we cannot put such a question about authentication, about authenticity. Always it is put in this form: is the audio video, is it original, or is it authentic? So does it correspond to the crime scene, and so on? But it seems to that this is a kind of question that the expert cannot answer in a categorical form, because yes, if the traces of editing are revealed, then it is definitely fraud, and it is definitely manipulated, and we cannot trust. So the evidence cannot stand as original data. So the evidence is excluded from the case. But since the editing traces are not revealed, it does not approve the authenticity itself, because technically speaking, we don't know what happened in the real life, and this this problem comes from the real cases, from the testifying in court, and from the struggling with lawyers in the court and so on. Because what they ask is, dear Mr. Expert, can you make such an editing that you cannot detect? And the answer is yes. If the level of my competence is, well, quite high, I can avoid leaving any traces of editing in the audio recording. If I know what I have to learn, what the expert will investigate in the file, in the signal, I know how to avoid leaving traces of my editing there. And that means that the expert cannot answer for the authentication question in the direct form, in a categorical form. That is not possible. And it's the only way here is to answer for the question about, are there any traces of editing? Are there any traces of manipulation, tampering, fraud of the media file? So this question can get the expert's answer as a categorical statement, and prevent the court from getting into a methodological discussion. We can definitely say, yes, I inspected this, that, and that, and those traces are absent in my file. In this case, they are absent. And this is what I'm sure, 100% sure about. And this is a kind of a question that I can answer in a categorical way. And this is it. From my experience, this kind of question is put even in European countries and in Russia. If even the judge puts this question in this first form, in the form of is the audio authentic, or is it original data, and so on. Even in this case, then the expert is saying, okay, I got the methodology, and in my methodology, it is written that I can answer questions only about the presence of traces. So that is the reason I will reformulate the question. I will tell the court of law that, well, I cannot answer your question. It is out of my competence. I can answer questions like, are there traces of editing? And since this is put into the methodology of the investigation of the institution, of the particular institution, then the expert has this kind of background, and he or she can say that, well, by methodology, I can answer only this kind of questions. And this helps a lot in our very hard way, hard part through the analysis of the continuity, analysis of integrity, analysis of the originality of the evidence file. So once again, we need not only the competence from the technical point of view, but we need the 100 strong support from the methodological point of view. And since it is resolved, then we can proceed with our technical stuff. And every day brings us new experience, and every day brings us new methods and new knowledge, and helps us to get the idea, to reveal the traces and get the idea about whether the audio or video was tampered or edited. I I have participated in many discussions about this, and these ideas that are listed here, and they are not my own ideas. And these, for example, as for the Russian Ministry of Justice, in the methodology, it is written that we can solve only this kind of questions. And also in the uh, expert community in Europe, for example, this question is totally understood right. So this is not like something I invented, but this is what is coming from the practice and from the real case studies and real case work. And I believe this is all about the methodological part, and I would like you to see some, now we will go to the editing itself, and I would like to talk about the modifications of editing and about the approaches that are existing now, and then of course my main focus will be the instrumental analysis of the audio signal and the video signal. So after the recording is created and after it is stored, today you even recording with a smartphone, for example, you can even edit it exactly after the recording. So you can delete the part inside the signal. You can delete the part inside audio and video both. You can delete the beginning, you can delete the end, or this is there is one more very severe problem. You can put the recording device on pause during the recording. So once again, let's go through this list. Signal editing. This is a deletion of fragment, changing the events order, copy-paste operations. This is when we use one and the same fragment of the file. We use it twice or three times just to hide or substitute some events that we don't want to be in our recording. Then other way to go is the weakening of useful signal and masking it with noises. This is both about audio and video, and the focus of this is to hide the information that we don't want to stay in the recording. We would like to mask it, we would like to hide it, and to cover it with any kind of noises, pretending that the car is moving, or and pretending that the recording device is not working properly, and so on. Then we come to using the fragments of different recordings, and well, from expert experience, we know that this situation is a quite a rare thing. So every recorder, every channel records with its own even audible properties, and of course, when you put 2 or 3 recordings together, of course, this can be audibly detected or visibly detected if we speak about video. And this is what the musical composers or the video engineers, they try to avoid. They want to put it into the same audible way or same visible way. For video, this is about the resolution. So there is an initial resolution of the frame, and then if you take 2 different videos, you have to put it into one resolution. Now, from the very beginning, it requires some knowledge about it, because if you just put it one to one, then you get the curtains, so-called the curtains, the black areas, and so on. And so from our expert experience, using fragments of different recordings, this is a quite a rare thing. But still, there are real case examples that, and I believe I have it in my presentation here also. I will show it when the properties of the signal, they are different for different recordings, and we can see visibly, we can see the change of this. And another way to hide and to pretend that everything is okay, or to hide some useful information, is the changing of the recorded device traces in the recording. So this is when we try to adapt like sounding of the audio for the telephone channel, or when we would like to crop the video flow, just to avoid some information that can be used that has the forensic sensitive information. And today, of course, we cannot we must talk about the file itself. Since all the data, media data today became digital, of course, we have to deal with this object. So what is the object of the forensic audio examination? The object is the information, is the audio information or video information stored in the carrier. And the carrier now today is a digital data carrier, and that contains a file. So our information is inside the file, and we cannot avoid using the sensitive information or important information from the file header or file structure in our examination today. Okay. Now let us talk about the approaches that are available for this investigating of audio or video recording. And of course, from the very beginning, it is the critical listening, the critical perception. Well, we understand that it is like so practically speaking, this is the purpose of the person who did this editing. The purpose of this person is just to avoid some kind of logical jumps or physical changes, like not physical, but perceptive changes of the scene of the frame or the audio. And of course, the critical listening sometimes make miracles. Sometimes it gives a lot of interesting information. Together with instrumental methods, it would be a really powerful method of analysis, because since the expert knows where to look, what is the point of this investigation, getting it from the instrumental approach, then it becomes more and more clear what should be discussed and what should be extracted from the file. What is the problem in the logics of the recorded information. So critical listening and visual analysis, critical visual analysis, this is first, this is the core of the investigation, of course. Then, of course, we have to speak about the linguistic analysis. And in here, as for me, coming from the physics faculty and coming with a physics background, well, it seemed that linguistic analysis would not be such an important thing, because the technical is always more technical, more practical, more formulated, and more clear, and so on. But in my expert experience, it became so that I met a couple of cases in the beginning of my career that the linguistic analysis just brought the most interesting results in the case investigation. So, of course, linguistic analysis and the extra-linguistic analysis for video, meaning the gestures, the circumstances of the crime scene, and so on. So, this is an absolutely important absolutely important part of the investigation. So my next two slides will be about the more details on audited and linguistic features. And here we see the obvious stories about the detection of the continuity, of the integrity of consequence of acoustic events and video events, uh, extracting the signals artifacts or changes of sounding or of the image. Uh, why it is important? Because later on, using other methods of analysis, you can return back and you can summarize up your results. So the first method of analysis gives you some information. Then you start to be more accurate with the investigation of these points using the other methods. So every approach gives us the results, and then we summarize our results together. And they go hand by hand, and the expert with the physics background, uh, together with the expert with the linguistic background, they are making it together and discussing together all the problems and the editing points that now occurred and that were extracted from the audio file. So next thing is the channel parameter stability. And as I said, this is like a telephone microphone channel for the audio, or for video. This is not only the channel, but this is the view of the camera. So if your camera is a stable camera, then it should not move, or it should move in periodical way, or so on. So you have to be sure about this also. But also, of course, the resolution and the quality of the video image is very important. So you can compare the quality of the video frame from the beginning, from the very beginning and from the very end, and see whether it is the same. And this is a very good check just for the very start of your investigation. And then text investigation, linguistic and extra-linguistic features control, and logical, syntax, and lexical and semantic level. And you see that we come to the linguistic approach in here. And as for the linguistic approach for the authentication of the media file, well, there are some properties connected to the text that is said and to the authors of this text. So there are features that can be described from the linguistic point of view, and these features belong to the speaker and to the text that he is pronouncing, and both of them can be used. So we have to think about it. We have to separate. We have to see this division, because if you totally mix them together, it will be hard to be formal, and it will be hard to explain to the court what have you done exactly. So, and one of the requirements is the repeatability of our investigation, and of course, the formality of the process must be very strict. So, as for text, I better just start with speaker. This is the stability of communication role and speech manner and style stability. So even if it is the same person, maybe the two different recordings were used to create your evidence audio, and thus, well, it must be adequate. If we have some changes in the style, manner of speech, it must be adequate. For example, now it is like 9 o'clock at my place, and well, it is morning. So I didn't talk for a moment. So my voice in the beginning of this webinar, in the end of this webinar, will be somehow different. It will sound in a little bit different way. But you can trace the continuity afterwards. You can trace the continuity of changing of my voice during this webinar. And if it is continuous, then it is okay. But you must pay attention on that during investigation. And of course, identification feature. All speaker forensic speaker voice identification features that we investigate during the ID cases. Of course, they can be used for the authentication as well. So we can prove that this is the same guy speaking, or if we speak about the video examination, then this is of course the portrait identification and so on. So we understand clear that identification features should not change during the recording, because if it happens so, then maybe this is one person speaking in the beginning and another person speaking in the end of the file, and this is not exactly what happened and what was going on. And then we have to, then we can, after we investigated these people, we go to the text. And in here, we deal with the linguistic points, like the stages of the topic realization and interconnection, interrelation of speakers' utterances of the speaker's phrases, and breaks of phrases, words, phonemes, phonation, and prosodic patterns. And then what is the most interesting in linguistic analysis, this is wrong semantics. So wrong grammar. This is something that can be definitely extracted from the linguistic science and from the linguistic point of view. Linguistics has just a very wide tool set for the extraction of this kind of problems. So well, in my courses, I do not put many details on that usually. This is because I'm not linguistic, but from my experience, I know that this is a very huge impact on the real case studies and a huge impact on the real case work. Okay, so now I come to my instrumental part, and I would like to show the capabilities of contemporary methods of analysis of the audio and video signals. So I believe that our participants, there are participants in our webinar that have already learned about it from our discussions, and still I would like to put it in a most easiest way, but still, of course, it will be technical. It will require some technical knowledge and technical details knowledge, both from the digital forensics point of view and from physics point of view. So starting with the instrumental audio analysis, instrumental features of editing, of course, we need some kind of scheme of our discussion of our topic. So we will split it into 4 different parts. First is the time domain. So everything that can be extracted from the time domain, there's something like start, stop, or pause modes, and coming to the features like a histogram of samples, which is the general feature of the audio signal. And then coming from the general features, we will go to the continuity feature. So the histogram is a general feature, but then we can investigate the continuity of this histogram of samples during the time. Well, this is looks like in video we have the inter-frame editing and intra-frame editing. So we have editing of the image of the video, or we have the break of the continuity of the video. So this is something that we have to keep in mind always. We have some general features, but also we can investigate the change of this general feature during the time of the recording. So In time domain analysis, we have to explain, any uh, any kind of artifacts, any kind of changes. Well, in general, in instrumental analysis, we have to explain all these kind of manipulations that we extracted during auditive analysis, during linguistic analysis. And for example, even the compression or even the amplification of the signal can be seen using our methods. Also, we have to analyze the cases of resampling, changing of the quality of the file. You see, it can be done even in the time domain. This is very interesting thing because usually when we speak about the resampling, about the changing of the sampling rate, we speak about some spectral features that change. But no, it's not all. We can detect it by the time domain analysis as well. DC offset listed here, this is the feature of the microphone or the feature of the chain of the recording. We will discuss it. And also time domain analysis allows us to extract some low level, low energy fragments in the audio and to bring or to give the explanation about the origin of this kind of artifacts in our signal. So this part is the beginning or end low energy fragments. These are investigated during the time domain analysis. Also, we can calculate the threshold we can calculate the derivative just to detect the jumps of the signal and use the periodical event analysis for the periodicity, for the periodical events analysis, something like clock ticking or something like a human pulse that is brought to the recording because the microphone is on the body or in the pocket, so we can even hear the heartbeat of the person. And usually we say that we have the traces of the heartbeat, and the periodicity of this heartbeat changes accordingly or not accordingly the situation that is recorded in our evidence. So even this kind of stuff can be, this kind of information can be analyzed during our investigation. You can imagine, like a person brings the recording device on his body or her body, and then this person participates in a conversation. Yeah. Or, well, the person is moving from one room to another room and speaking with one group of people and then speaking with another group of people and so on. And of course, maybe his heartbeat is changing, and that is the feature that well, it is something that is simultaneously changing together with the stream of science, with this crime scene. Okay, and then in the time domain analysis we have the matching signal fragments detection, and this is the copy paste that we have already discussed in the very beginning. Copy paste is the most beautiful, most easy way to edit the audio, because we have video, because we have something like 1 hour of data, 1 hour time of recording, and of course, like in 5-10 minutes, the attention of the expert of the investigator does not react on for example, on the broadband noise. So our hearing system and our visual perception system adapts to the picture, adapts to the sound, and then the brain automatically extracts the features, just suppresses the features that are not useful. So in this way, our brain plays a trick with us. So even with accurate listening, it is hard to say whether this and that fragment was used twice. Okay, and The next area of investigation, the next area of instrumental analysis, next field, the next portion is the frequency domain analysis. And in here, of course, we will talk about average spectrum and about the correspondence of the average spectrum of the speaker to the average spectrum of the recording, because this reveals the situation when the phrases from one recording are put into another recording. So in this way, we can detect that 2 or 3 different recordings were used to create the audio under investigation. Of course, here we have the resampling traces, and we can see the spectral reflections, and we can see the filters that show us the process of creation. And we have to evaluate whether it is like the feature of the recorder itself, whether it is a feature of the device, or it is a feature of the post-processing. Like everything else, well, we have to realize, and we have to explain all kind of troubles or all kind of features that we extract during our investigation. Continuity of background acoustic events, and in here we talk about, for example, we can talk about music that is playing in the background. And for example, if this is a music that was recorded with a low MP3 quality, and then we see that it does not, this music does not cover all the available frequency range. So, well, we have to analyze this, and we have to come to the conclusion about whether it's okay that the music has a different frequency range than the speech recorded. So what is the reason, what is the origin of this situation? The next thing is the noises and distortions type, and parameters of these noises and distortions: continuity, signal energy, situational correspondence, and after that we come to narrowband harmonics. So we will talk about the origin of these harmonics and what could be, why can they happen, why could it happen that they appear in our audio file or video file, and also we have a method that allows us to detect the continuity of this harmonic, not only the value of the harmonic, but also the phase of this harmonic. So the next stage is the traces of the codec. Now, today, the majority, or I should say 70% of cases today, they are already coded into the, as for audio file, they are already coded into some psychoacoustic code. Because it is easier, it is cheaper, it is very well, it is famous. Everyone has a smartphone in his hand today, his or her hand today, and it is very easy to start the recording. And smartphone does not record in WAV format, in the RAW format, because this is kind of expensive. It takes a lot of memory, a lot of battery, so it is much easier just to store it into MP3 file. And in here, we must accept that now we have to deal not only with the procedure of the recording itself, not only with the procedure of the creation of the conversion from the analog world to digital world. Now we have to get into details of digital world, and we have to understand how the digital file is created, how the frames of this file are created, and what is the procedure, and what are the kind of traces that are left in our signal after this procedure. And also in here, in this section, voice activation is mentioned, and automatic gain control is mentioned. And in here we come to a very, very important fact that yes, we need the recording device. And yes, in 80% of cases, we don't get the recording device. But well, the first thing that the investigator gets coming to to the expert's office and bringing the media evidence. The first paper is the call for the device. Yes, maybe the investigator cannot provide the device, but maybe it is possible. Then we are lucky and we are happy because getting the device, the recording device, or even getting the experimental recording from there, test recording from this device, we get much more information about the channel and about the properties and about the file and about a lot of things. So this is sensitive for the voice activation totally, because if the voice activation is on, the way the signal starts with when the speech starts, this way uh, is individual for every recorder, and it is important to see these features of this algorithm. And the same with automatic gain control. Where this is when one speaker is far away and another speaker is very close to the microphone, and then the system, the recorder, automatically change the amplitude of the signals, amplifying the far speaker and attenuating the close speaker. Uh, the way that is the gain control works, automatic gain control, is also individual for every recorder. Well, it doesn't change a lot from for the recorders of the same model, but from model to model, from the manufacturer to another manufacturer, the gain control is different. And of course, getting the test recording is this is our happiness, and this is our goal and our purpose to get it anyhow. Officially request the investigator for it, or maybe if you have such a possibility, to make your own database and to make your own collection of files for the further analysis. So every time we get the recording device to inside the case, always we create the test recording and store it in our database for the further comparison, both file analysis, file structure, file header analysis, and signal properties. And this is when we come to the fourth section of the instrumental audio analysis. It is also about the video analysis. This is the file investigation. So today, there are so many ways to store the information, and today there are so many ways to exchange this information. So we have to learn more about it. Every day there is a new format that is open, is developed, and is issued to the world. And the only way to get acquainted with that is just to be online and to stay focused on that. So what is important about the file analysis? This is, of course, the structure. So every format has its own standard. This is quite a thick book that tells where the format, the structure is listed accurately. So all the bodies, all the fields of the file header, they are described there in this standard, and then we have to check whether our file corresponds to this standard. So because if we try to change some information there, then in the file header, then it will not correspond to, if you delete something in the file header, it will not correspond to the file standard, and this gives some sensitive forensic information. Of course, this is about the creation and modification dates, and we have to speak about both here, about the dates that are provided by the operational system and the dates provided by the recorder device, by the recorder itself, by the recording device itself. Then there are some significant, interesting features of the recording device itself. So it is said it is a Panasonic, or it is Sony, it is Olympus, and so on. This information is sensitive for us, and this information can be sensitive for the case itself because, well, uh, could it be that it was a Sony recorder? Yes, it could be so, or couldn't be. So we cannot avoid using this information, and we cannot avoid, we cannot put it away and do not investigate that because it is important. Um, then we understand that today there are a lot of audio and video software applications, but the majority of them leave traces to the file header, and this is very good for us. And if I open the file and I see Adobe Audition, Adobe Premiere there, well, from the very beginning, what are there any traces of manipulation? Yes, there are. There is a trace of the software, and from this point, it doesn't matter what exactly was done. It doesn't matter what exactly, what kind of deletion or what kind of changes were introduced into the file, because since it is from Adobe Audition or Premiere, it is already manipulated, edited file, or in other case, the investigator has to explain how it appeared there. Uh, for example, this is the story about the files coming from from the field operations. So the field operation is secret, and the recording device is secret, and the people that are participating in this field operation, they are also undercover, and that means that their voices cannot go anywhere, and even in the in the so there are people before the main conversation, then there is a main conversation, and there are people talking after the main conversation. So these people that are talking before and after, they are undercover, and investigator cannot open their voices, cannot provide the detail. So what is the way? Okay, let's open some SoundForge or whatever, some audio software, and let us cut the beginning and cut the end of the file and provide this middle part as the evidence. Yeah, I understand that the information about the recording device itself, it will be listed in the file header, but at the same time, the traces of the software application will be there too. And how can I trust this file if I see some software application there? In this case, well, we have to address the investigator and ask them what exactly happened. So tell us, please, how did you create this audio recording or video recording? Because without it, we are not able to say that it is authentic. As soon as we get the software trace, we cannot tell that it corresponds, that the facts and events reflected in our audio file correspond to the IU crime scene or correspond to the reality. Um, After that, we proceed to the codec traces, and in here, well, we expect some correspondence of the codecs traces listed in the file header and extracted from the signal properties for the audio file, for example. So if it is written MP3 here, it cannot be AAC when you when you investigate the signal properties. And of course, if it is written RIFAV in the file header, of course we expect no traces of MP3 or psychoacoustic codecs. And the next thing to discuss is the frame allocation map, and I will put more details on that in the corresponding section. Okay, now this was the our plan of our talk and our report. So now we will go to the we come back to the time domain analysis, and we say more, we tell more details about the investigation in every particular method that we mentioned. So the first thing to discuss about the audio, this is the general feature. This is the histogram of samples. How it is calculated. I just draw, this is our microphone in the right-hand side corner, upper corner. This is our microphone that generates the electrical signal. And then this electrical signal comes to the ADC, an electro-digital converter, that creates a waveform in a digital form. So it has two parameters. First of all, this is a bit resolution, and secondly, this is the sampling rate. So both of these parameters, they specify the quality of audio, but as soon as we are in the time domain, we will talk about the bit resolution, of course. So for every sample that we record from the audio signal, for every sample we have 16 bits, which gives us the, this is for 16-bit PCM, that gives us 65,536 available levels or available values of this sample. So what we do, we just we split this set to positive and negative set. So this is from -2 32,768 to 32,767, and including 0, of course. And even from this image, before talking about this image, I would like to say just to say what is the histogram of samples, because sometimes I get questions about it. So to explain it, I just took the temperature in Moscow for last 20 days. And in here you have two axes. One is the temperature, and another vertical is the frequency of this temperature. And I have 20 days, and you see this is from 23 to 27 degrees Celsius. So we have some kind of measures, and then we can try to analyze these measures, and we can build a distribution of this measure. So we see that this is like one value of 27, and one value of 26, and two values of 26.5. So there are 4 days, and if you have the same value of your parameter, then you have just 2 blocks over it. So this is 1 day, and this is 2 days. So this is how the histogram is built. Exactly the same we can do with the signal samples, with the audio signal samples. We can build the distribution. We can analyze the distribution of samples. How the samples are distributed, and from the very beginning, I should say that, well, it has the peculiarities even for the 16-bit PCM system. As I said, it is from -32,768 to 32,767, but it is so if it is created by the digital recorder, mainly, usually. So usually, if you create it by the digital recorder, it is these digits. But if you create the file by the audio software application, then it stores the absolute value and the sign, and that brings us to the situation when the maximum value is the same. It is 32,767, but the minimum value is -32,767 as well. And well, this you can try to check it. You can check it, and you will be like surprised with that, because there are different ways of storing the information, and usually it is so that the recording device creates the PCM file in this way, and the software application creates in another way. So even from the general feature, from the general statistics of the signal, we can make at least one conclusion. Well, whether it was created, if it is a WAV file, of course, whether this file was created by the device or by the software application. So our topic, and of course, is filled with this kind of peculiarities. But if you study it more and more, you can see that, of course, it is a certain certain field of knowledge. So it is a interconnected facts that are there. Just a second, please. Excuse me. Okay, what else can we see by this histogram of sample? We can see that there are more low-level samples than the high-level samples. We see somehow a very well distributed function, and well, this is a kind of function that has a lot of functionality from the statistical, from the math, from the statistics. So we can calculate the average value, we can calculate the dispersion, and also we can calculate the asymmetry of this distribution, and so on and so forth. All of them get the explanation from the device point of view. For example, the average value, the center of the distribution, the average value of distribution corresponds to the nominal voltage in the microphone recording chain. As soon as we have the membrane, then the coil over the magnet. So this is the chain of the recording. The membrane is shaken, and then the coil is shaped over the magnet. This is what happens during the recording, the conversion from the mechanical signal to electrical signal. But this chain has its own voltage, nominal voltage, and this voltage can be detected by the center of this distribution. What else? The dispersion of this distribution corresponds to the sensitivity of the microphone, or at the same time to the distance to the speaker. We know that the signal energy is decreasing, and if we
Ivan, just a second. Ivan, just a second.
Yes, please.
Mr. Tanaji, just stop sharing your screen. Keep your video and audio off. Yeah. Yes, Ivan, you can continue. Somebody shared
If you want, you can take a break.
Okay. Okay. So coming back to this histogram of samples, we understand that this is a feature that reflects both the recording device and the acoustic events that have taken place in the real crime scene. So both the features of the device and the features of the scene, they are condensed in this image, and we can evaluate whether it is adequate or not. So
Ivan, you can share your screen once again. Your presentation is not visible. You can just stop and again present.
okay, just a second, please.
You need a break, Ivan?
Yes, it would be fine. Just 3 minutes break. Just
That's sure. Sure, we can give you for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We can go for
Okay,
it, not
fine.
a problem. And Ivan, there is one suggestion from the participants. Like if
Yes,
you can
please.
share some case studies, then it will also be good, because they want some case studies to be shown.
Okay. Yeah, it will be done during the presentation further on.
Yeah,
We will-
second part of the session.
Yes, this is a general discussion, but also we have as I see, you can see it. Oh no, you cannot yet. But in the slide number 16, so it is like very close to us. Already there are some real cases, so we can investigate that and talk and put some facts about it.
Sure. We'll go with that.
Okay,
You can take a
just
break. For
let's come back. Return in 5 minutes. Thank you very much. And
We'll be here. Thank you.
yes, in
Thank
5 minutes. Thank you.
So, dear participants, we will be again resuming in 5 minutes. You can take a break for 5 minutes and then come back for the session. Thank you.
The battle is age-old. Good versus evil. Criminal versus law. Terror versus peace. There is someone playing a major role for the establishment of justice and peace. That is science. Forensic science. The horizons of this science are expanding to embark futuristic innovation and development in crime investigation and detection. The government of Gujarat has established a unique university of specialized education with a focus to prepare ready-to-serve industry professionals in the field of forensic science. World's first and only forensic science university. That is Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, popularly known as GFSU, was conceptualized and foundation stone laid by the visionary Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi.
गुजरात इस बात के लिए गर्व कर सकता है कि पिछले 10 साल के भीतर भीतर गुजरात ने ग्लोबल लेवल के इंस्टीट्यूशन देश को दिए। आज भी दुनिया में कहीं पर भी फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी नहीं है, दुनिया में कहीं नहीं है। गुजरात अकेला है जिसकी अपनी फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी है, दुनिया की एकमात्र यूनिवर्सिटी।
Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, established by the government of Gujarat under the flagship of Home Department, is a highly specialized higher education institution across the world, which is the only establishment of its kind dedicated to forensic and investigative sciences. Located at Gandhinagar, the capital city of the state of vibrant Gujarat, it has established 3 major academic institutes, namely Institute of The battle is age-old. Good versus evil. Criminal versus law. Terror versus peace. One playing a major role for the establishment of justice and peace. That is science. Forensic science. The horizons of this science are expanding to embark futuristic innovation and development in crime investigation and detection. The government of Gujarat has established a unique university of specialized education with a focus to prepare ready-to-serve industry professionals in the field of forensic science. World's first and only forensic science university. That is Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, popularly known as GFSU, was conceptualized and foundation stone laid by the visionary Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi.
गुजरात इस बात के लिए गर्व कर सकता है कि पिछले 10 साल के भीतर भीतर गुजरात ने ग्लोबल लेवल के इंस्टीट्यूशन देश को दिए। आज भी दुनिया में कहीं पर भी फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी नहीं है, दुनिया में कहीं नहीं है। गुजरात अकेला है जिसकी अपनी फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी है, दुनिया की एकमात्र यूनिवर्सिटी।
Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, established by the Government of Gujarat under the flagship of Home Department, is a highly specialized higher education institution across the world, which is the only establishment of its kind dedicated to forensic and investigative sciences. Located at Gandhinagar, the capital city of the state of vibrant Gujarat, it has established 3 major academic institutes, namely Institute of Forensic Science, Institute of Behavioral Science, and Institute of Research and Development. Collectively, the university offers more than 35 postgraduate and doctorate level academic programs. Besides education and research, the university is also engaged in imparting training to officers of law enforcement agencies of the world, like Bangladesh, Nepal, Maldives, Myanmar, Rwanda, Mozambique, Ethiopia, and others.
Considering the acute shortage of the experts who could investigate and prevent crimes, not only in India but throughout the world, the then Chief Minister and the present Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, took an exemplary initiative in establishing this unique world-class university, the first university of its kind in the world.
The university runs in parallel association with the Directorate of Forensic Science, DFS Gujarat State, to provide hands-on training. The GFSU's ultra-modern campus is spread across an area of 50,000 square meters, and new development is taking place at adjoining 74,000 square meters area. GFSU offers state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities like classrooms equipped with projectors, laboratories with latest equipments and instruments, administrative wing, computer lab, multiple R&D laboratories, and much more. The GFSU campus is Wi-Fi enabled, centrally air-conditioned, and equipped with highly intelligent security systems. This university has established Asia's first and only cyber defense center for education, training and research in the areas of combating cyber war and cyber security. International Center for Humanitarian Forensics, also known as ICHF, is envisioned to be the first global center of excellence in humanitarian forensics that will undertake teaching, research and services on various aspects of humanitarian forensic actions towards addressing the needs of vulnerable population in the event of disaster or emergency. This eco-friendly and green campus has international class hostels and guest house facilities to provide comfortable accommodation to students and guests. An amphitheater, huge playground for multiple sports, cafeteria, large auditorium with 560 seating capacity, learning resource center with internet facilities, together with a voluminous collection of electronic and printed books, journals, paper reviews and articles add into the list. Among 3 major academic institutes, the Institute of Forensic Sciences was established with an aim to provide a center for academic excellence and ultra-modern practical training in the area of forensic and its subsidiary sciences. GFSU's ultra-modern ballistics research and testing range has got capabilities of analyzing bulletproof materials like jackets, glass plates, metallic plates, helmets, tires, and even armored vehicles. This facility is only of its kind in Asia. The Institute of Behavioral Science endeavors to impart education and research in clinical and forensic psychological sciences, and also to provide better caliber in diagnostics, psycho-legal consultations, and treatment and rehabilitation to clients. Institute of Research and Development is a dedicated center to the discovery, development, and application of forensic science in a wide range of academic and professional areas to create excellent quality of research work. Apart from its state-of-the-art research facilities at GFSU and DFS, the university has collaborated with many national and international organizations and laboratories spread across India, USA, Canada, France, UK, Australia, Malaysia, Uganda, Israel, Turkey, Egypt, Kenya, Algeria, Lesotho, Botswana, Ethiopia, Mauritius, Sri Lanka, Mozambique, Rwanda, Mongolia, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Cambodia, Poland, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Seychelles, and many other countries. GFSU also hosts students and police personnel from various parts of the world. The university provides 100% placement assistance and has created a full-fledged placements and career guidance cell, which works rigorously throughout the year, arranging placements for its students in various organizations around the world. GFSU runs an international affairs cell to assist aspiring and existing international students, which may include overseas police and intelligence officials also. Knowledge, wisdom, fulfillment, education through investigation. Gujarat Forensic Sciences University.
Thank you, Rehan. Ivan, are you there? Ivan. Hello.
Yes,
Ivan,
yes,
can you
ma'am.
hear me?
I'm here.
Yeah, we can resume the session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for this break.
Yeah.
And let's come back to our features, and I will restart the showing the presentation now.
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you. You can have to go to full screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so coming back to the histogram of samples and discussing the real cases. So here we see different examples of histogram of samples for different files. And I will put some commentaries on each histogram just to show how the specific, significant, important information can be extracted from the just a very simple feature, very simple calculations. So the histogram of samples, the first one here, the red one in the upper left corner, this is the example of the linear compressed file. So this file was recorded with not 16-bit, but it was recorded with 13-bit, which makes us propose that this is an AMR format, which is regularly used on the cell phones, for example. And we see this feature we see this fact just from the analysis of the histogram of samples. So linear compression looks in this way. And also this information is listed in the file header. So we can cross-check whether the signal properties correspond to the facts listed in the file header, which gives us, makes us more confident about, more sure about whether it is okay or not, whether the file is intact or not. Also, the same way, the same histogram of samples we will get if we, the same type, or for example, the same type of the histogram we will get if we amplify the signal. So from the very beginning, if we see that the file header is listed 16 bits, we open the file, we build the histogram of samples, and we see something like this histogram at the blue graph. Well, we see it was amplified. So how could it happen that the file was amplified? The signal was amplified because the recorder itself doesn't have this feature. And during the recording, there is no sense in amplification in such a manner. There is a, well, the signal can be amplified. For example, it is about the gain control, but still the histogram will be normal, like the green graph here. This blue graph corresponds to the editing, to the manipulation with the signal. And the same with the red graph at the top. It was decreased twice. You can see it from the left-hand side. The signal, this is in the center, in the middle, this is a normal signal, and then this is decreased and increased. Decreased the upper picture and then increased in the lower picture. So all these actions, they get the reflection in the histogram of samples, and this is a very important information for us. The second graph, light green, at my slide here, corresponds to the telephone channel. This is the A-law compression. If we get the audio recording from the lawful interception, it is normal that the histogram samples looks like this way, like this type of compression. This is a non-linear compression, 8-bit compression, and we call it a fir tree. Once again, that gives us the basis to analyze and to see whether the facts that we know from the case correspond to the facts that we extract from the signal. So if it is a telephone channel, local interception, recording station, then it is the easiest way is to store it as it comes through the telephone channel. So this information can be extracted and can be analyzed here. Then the orange graph, the graph of orange color or red color, stands for the peculiarities of a particular digital recorder. This is a non-linear compression. We see that the lower amplitudes, they are represented with more available levels than the high amplitudes, and also we see some peculiarities in that. We have a peak here, small peak around minus 12,000 samples, and we have a gap from minus 24,000 to minus 31,000. So this is a feature of the device, and also since we get the test recording from it, we can compare. We can say, yeah, this is okay. This distribution of samples of the evidence file is the same that with the distribution of samples of a test file. Then let's proceed to the dark green distribution. This is a real case study, and what kind of information can we extract from here? Well, we see the peaks at the left and the right hand side of the distribution. What these peaks could correspond to. So imagine you have the audio file and then you amplify it or you record it with the so-called overloading. So the file is overloaded. It is very loud. Then what will happen? What happens with the samples? The samples cannot get out of the range of minus 32K to 32K. The samples values are limited with this range, and that means that if you have a excuse me, if you have a sample that is trying to get over this range, then all these samples are collected at the edges of the distribution.
Excuse me, Ivan. Can you please again share the screen?
Mm-hmm. Okay, do you see it now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are discussing the okay, I'm watching the YouTube channel at the same time and I see the delay. Okay, so now we are discussing the dark green graph at the right hand side top, and we see the peaks at the edges of the distribution. And I have already said that this happens when you have a loud signal, when you have it overloaded. when you have samples that try to be how to say, try to jump over this range, but it is not possible for the 16-bit signal. And in this case, all these samples are collected on the edge of the distribution. Then you get those peaks, but those peaks must be very, very thin. They must be like the value of 32,767 or minus 32,768, and they are high and thin. But what we see here, that they are smooth. So, and also what we see here, that these peaks, they're not standing on the edge of the distribution, but they are inside our range. So from this image, what I can propose is that this audio was decreased the energy, so it was tuned, attenuated, the energy of the signal was decreased, and that brought those peaks at the edge of the distribution inside the range. And after that, this file was resampled. So the sampling rate of the file was changed. And that is the reason that these peaks are smooth. So from only one picture, from only one graph, I can understand the procedure that have taken place, and I can understand and get the idea about what kind of actions it was, what occurred to this file, what happened, and what was done. So it seems to be a very, very important information. And of course, this audio, this doesn't seem original. This audio seems to be processed, and I cannot imagine that the real recording device can create audio signals with this kind of samples distribution, with this kind of histogram of samples. So only one picture gives me a lot of information about the signal properties. And of course, well, if it is a regular, if it is a normal distribution like this red one on the first slide about the histograms, this is also okay. We will also put it into our report and say, well, the distribution is all right. There are no problems, there are no compression traces, there are no attenuation traces, and so on. So we never leave this information out of our report. We put it for the next expert to can repeat it and can see the same facts that we have seen, and that we have those features, the same features that we have extracted. Let's proceed with this group of graphs for the histogram of samples, and the violet graph here. Okay, I wait just when it is, when the image, yes, this one. The middle picture at the right, we see two peaks, two small peaks in there, and this is also this can be important, and we at least must get the pure understanding why it happens. So it could be signal properties, so it could be audio signal properties, or it could be the feature of the recording device, as it is with the red graph at the bottom right hand side. You see the center of the distribution looks fine. The distribution around zero looks like okay, but then we got some peaks at the edge of the negative edge of the distribution. There are regular peaks in there. So this is definitely the feature of the device. And of course, we, for example, we understand clearly that this is not a psychoacoustic codec. This is a WAV file from the very beginning. And this was not created by the audio software. It was created by the recording device, because audio software does not leave this kind of peaks. So we extract a lot of information from the just a histogram of samples. And also one more one more thing that we can evaluate from the histogram of samples. This is the asymmetry of the histogram of samples. Well, this corresponds to the peculiarities of the microphone, and to peculiarities of the amplifier that goes after the microphone. So we have microphone, then amplifier. They both give the impact to the asymmetry of the distribution. So that means that the amplifier amplifies positive values and negative values in a different way. And you can see it in the central picture. We have two histograms, blue and orange, and then there are two more graphs which represent as the asymmetry of these graphs, of these histograms. So the point is that this is a reflection of the chain of the recording. And if we compare this kind of picture from the beginning of the file and the end of the file, and if it matches, then we are lucky, it's okay, it is the same, it is intact. But if they are different, then it means that the signal was created by different devices. The first part of the signal and the last part, first and second part, they were created by different devices. So we get the reflection of a real world just in the one statistical picture of the distribution of samples. So this is a very useful information. And as we are talking about, we previously have mentioned that it is important to analyze the general feature, and then it is important to analyze the continuity of this feature. And the next situation, the next slide shows us the situation and of different processing of files, three different ways of processing in three different cases. So the central one is artificial, just to show you how it works. But these two, on the top and the bottom, these are real cases. And let me explain. So usually the samples, the representation of samples, or the waveform, the samples are connected with the lines. And what we can do, we can just, but these lines between samples, they do not exist. Then the only thing that exists is the sample value. So we have 16 bits for one sample, 16 bits for the second sample, the third sample, and so on and so forth. So there are no, how to say, lines between them. We approximate these lines just for the convenience of our of the layout of the image. So if we do not connect these samples, then we can see the traces of compression in or the amplification. I am talking about the central image now. We can see the traces of amplification in it. So the middle portion is not amplified. The very beginning is not amplified. The very end is not amplified. But we clearly see the fragments of the signal that are amplified. So, well, we do not know the reason why it happened. We do not know the purpose or motive of the person who was doing that. But what we can say definitely is that this signal was processed. So this signal was opened in a software application, audio processing software application, and then it was manipulated somehow. So as for the upper picture, you can see that at the left-hand side and right-hand side, this is a standard WAV file. This is normal, regular PCM WAV file. It's okay. But in the middle, we have the trace of the A-log. This distribution corresponds to the telephone channel. So this is the insertion of the telephone channel recording into the WAV file, into the microphone recording. And the sampling rate is the same. In this case, the person was recording the telephone conversation using another phone. And then he was, at the same time, he was recording this his conversations, his other conversations by the same phone. So what was done? The part of the recording that was recorded by the same telephone was inserted into the file that was created by the another cell phone. So this is the tampering. This is the fraud. This is the 100% sure fact that this is edited, and this file is not authentic. And another way to another trace of the editing or manipulation with the file that can be revealed by the levelogram tool. This is the usage of the fade function. So when you need to connect two files, two audio files, there is a special operation for that that is called fade, and you just, if you put it into consequently one by one, then you will hear the transition point, and this transition point will be very well audible. It will, you can see it by the waveform, you can see it by the spectrogram, and you can also hear that. But then what you can do, you can slightly smooth the end of the first fragment and slightly smooth the beginning of the second fragment and mix them together. And in this case, if the file was amplified or compressed before that, you will see this trace in the levelogram of the file. Sometimes, well, you see, like you have, like, on another side, there are musical composers. So these people, they create the fraud audio. They are thinking about the sounding, they are thinking about the spectrum, but there are always some features that they do not know or they don't think about. And what we can extract, what we can do is just, we can be more competent than them, and we can be more in details of the processing of audio and extract those features. Let's proceed to the next feature of the audio, that we can detect the continuity. This is the average value of this distribution. The average value, as I said before, the average value of the distribution, the center of the distribution, corresponds to the nominal voltage in the chain of the microphone. This is the electrical chain, and there is a nominal voltage there, and then the center of the distribution of digital samples correspond to it. And yes, this value can change during time. Let me explain. Like, you, for example, you have a battery supply. It is not always, but sometimes it happens. You have a battery supply for your digital recorder, and then there is an impact of the voltage of the battery that is decreasing. There is an impact on the nominal voltage in the microphone chain. So that means that slightly, accurately, and continuously, the center of the distribution will change its position. For example, it starts with 100 samples, and then decreases to minus 50 samples. But it must be continuous. And in case we have a break of the graph of the center of the distribution, that means that some part of file was deleted. So the upper picture here, this is a real case study, and we see, so every dot, every point of this graph corresponds to the value of the center of the distribution of samples. And we see that there is a jump at 3 minutes 20 seconds, and there is no any kind of explanations for this jump. Well, what could it be? This is the, like, one and the same channel of the recording. The microphone, the recording is on, the recording is going on, the file is open, the samples are going into this file, stored in this file, and then suddenly the nominal voltage changes with a jump. There is no physical reason for that, and what we see here, there is a break of the continuity of a technical feature. And of course, we will be much more focused on the auditive analysis at this point, and on the linguistic analysis and all other methods of analysis. And this shows the editing, as it shows the editing coming from this method of analysis. So the lower picture is also from the real case study, and we see that there are 3 breaks, and of course, first 2 breaks are not so contrast, but still these results are confirmed with audited analysis as well. And I like this case very much. I show it all the time when I talk about it, because this real case was uploaded to YouTube, and it was an open case, and from the very beginning it was a 15-minute recording, but then it was provided with a 1-hour recording, and you could find the fragments that were used to create this recording in that long recording. So it is approved editing. And we see that there is a technical feature that, well, not so many people know about, and not so many people care about, and still it reveals the editing. Okay, and let us talk about one more method of analysis in the time domain, and this is the copy paste. Well, the image shows you 2 screenshots of waveform over one and the same file. But what we see, it is absolutely the same shape. But here at the top image, it is 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and the bottom image is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. The problem is that from physical point of view, it is absolutely impossible. Because, well, even if it is the broadband noise, just a background noise, the molecules in the air, they move all the time, they move in a different way, and they are shaking the membrane in an individual way all the time. So the shape of the waveform cannot repeat, never. And what we see here is that it is repeated. This is a 100% sure method for to say that this is editing. This method can also be used for video analysis. If you can extract some feature from the video flow, and like you can build a waveform from that, then you can use the same method of the copy-paste search for the analysis of the copy-paste of the video. We will talk about it just in a few minutes when we switch to video. But right now, I would like to focus your attention on that. This is absolutely inaudible. You cannot recognize that this is the same sample of broadband noise, or it is the same word. For example, the word yes, 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 yes. We tell it so many times, and this is the same speaker, and he is pronouncing or she is pronouncing this the same way, with the same articulation, with the same stress, and with the same pitch, and so on. How to distinguish different words or different yes one from another? And this kind of analysis helps us to check whether it is unique or not unique. Well, it could be very sensitive because, well, you can imagine we can use this yes and substitute some no with a yes taken from the same audio file. Well, it could change the sense of the conversation, the sense of the text that is pronounced. Okay, so let us go to some more examples, and we switch to the spectrum, to the frequency domain, and I believe these images are very well known to you, and these are average spectra, and we know that every module in the chain of the recording has its own frequency response. So the result, our reflection from the real acoustic event, this reflection is transmitted through a chain of the recording, and every module of this chain puts its just give its impact on the frequency response on the final signal. So this can be used to identify the channel. This can be used to identify the changes in the channel. And once again, this is just a general feature. So what we start our investigation with, we just build average spectrum. How to detect the changes of the spectrum. Of course, this is the dynamic spectrogram. And in dynamic spectrogram, we can see how the spectrum is changed during time. And well, there is a very long discussion about how to calculate the dynamic spectrogram and what should be the parameters, because, for example, this first image corresponds to the same signal fragment taken for the calculation, but the parameters of the calculations are different. And we see that the resolution is different for these two spectra. So these are the details that we have to pay our attention to. So we must realize what kind of acoustic events we are investigating, what kind of signal we are investigating, and coming from that, this gives us the information about what parameters should be chosen, what should be the frame size, the frame type, and so on, because it could be sensitive. So if you build a dynamic spectrogram as a blue spectrum here, you will not resolve these two harmonics around 9,750. And if you build it with a red graph, then they will be resolved. And then it can be like the picture below. You see that there is some harmonic there, this straight line, and then we see two different types. One harmonic is absolutely straight and absolutely normal, and another gets two jumps. So these places, these points are suspected to be the editing points. And again, coming just saying a few words about video. Again, if you can extract something from video flow that can be treated as the waveform, as the audio signal, these methods are also applicable. And today, this is one of the, I should say, not too many methods of the analysis of continuity of video. So we have to, there are a lot of methods of image analysis, but there are not so many methods of the analysis of continuity of the video. And let's let me show you a couple of video cases and a couple of situations when the spectrogram analysis was very important. So these both cases are real cases, and well, if you take any software application, audio software application dedicated to the audio processing or analysis, then you will get the image of a spectrogram. If you build the spectrogram, you will get the image at the left. So, but you must be very accurate with the analysis of the spectrum, and we know that the higher frequencies, they decrease faster than the lower frequencies. So maybe there are some components of the signal, high-level components, that that are changing, but we do not see it from the very beginning. So it means that you have to use such methods of analysis that allow you to investigate all of frequency range with the same accuracy and with the same representativity. As we see at the right-hand side top picture, these are the traces of the failure of anti-aliasing codec. So since we are dealing with a digital signal, there is always such a effect that is called aliasing. I believe you know it, and of course, well, I should say that this recording was taken from from a notebook that was also provided for the expert investigation, and we see that even if the sampling rate is quite high, and it looks like to be 48 kilohertz, the effective range is around 7 kilohertz. And then we got reflections of the spectrum from 16 kilohertz. Well, this is a feature of the device. It's not a problem. But we see that there is a break of this feature during the recording. So the spectrogram investigation is a very proper spectrogram investigation is a very important step, a very important thing. So yeah, this is also the real case investigation, a real case study, a real case file, and in here we see that there is changes in broadband noises, and we see that, well, there is a certain jump of the high level components of the high frequencies component. So the cursor here is put onto the point of this changing, and the client wants to know whether it is editing or not. So the lower picture shows us that there are some continuous low frequency components that are continuous. They are not changing during the jump. So it helps us to establish that the audio was continuous at this point. And again, this is possible only using the accurate spectrogram calculation. And I will tell a few words about the continuity of the harmonics. And also this is important for the video analysis. For the analysis of the continuity of the video. Since there are some narrowband harmonics in your audio file, and this origin of these harmonics can be very different. It could be electromagnetic wave or it could be acoustic wave. In case it has quite a big amplitude, you can extract this harmonic from the signal and evaluate the continuity of its phase. What it provides to us, it gives us the possibility to detect the cut of the audio signal by the break of the continuity of some narrowband component. And I believe that it's a proper moment just to jump to the video analysis. I will switch to several slides further. Yeah, this is it. For example, this is the video, real case video, and in the frame of the image, there is a lamp, and this lamp is supplied with a regular network, electricity network. So what we can do, we can select a small frame or small area of the frame. So that is depicted with a square here at the lamp, and then we can build the average brightness graph. So you see, we calculate the brightness for each frame. We calculate the brightness of this square area, and then we go to next frame, and again we calculate the average brightness of this area. So in this way, frame by frame, we get the average values, and it provides us with a waveform, with a signal. And since it is a signal, we can treat it as an audio signal. And while the fact is that there are the same traces like the harmonics in spectrum, and we can evaluate the phase of this harmonics, and we can evaluate the deletions of fragments of the video signal. Imagine you have a stable camera that is recording the corridor, and then there was a person going through this corridor. So what you can do, you can just cut the fragment that this person was going there and cut it away, delete it, and there is no way to detect it. And how we can establish that? Yes, if there is some electricity lamps or some periodical events, we can calculate the average brightness graph for it, and we can start process with the same procedures that we are working with audio. For example, copy paste. Also, We can substitute the scene of crime with we can substitute with a fragment of our video file where nothing had happened. In this way, if we calculate the average brightness graph, then the copy-paste method will help us to reveal what fragments of video flow were used twice. And okay, I think that we are practically over with the audio, and not so much time left. Of course, we need to say a few words about the coding. Today, there are methods to extract the psychoacoustic codecs, the traces. So we can prove that the audio file was coded by a particular codec. And this is not all. We can also detect double coding or recoding. We can detect editing. And you know what? We do it by the signal properties, not by the file header, but by the signal properties. So this is a kind of knowledge that nobody uses, and none of the musical composers uses in their everyday work. So they're not thinking about the frame size of MP3 codec, and they just cut something. We have a hope that they cut it in such a point that can be revealed by our method as soon as we can extract features of the code. Yeah. Okay, so there is a big portion for the media file analysis, and the most interesting in here, this is the frame allocation map that allows us to identify the device, extracting some peculiarities of the distribution of the digital frames. And now I'm talking not about the frames of signal, I'm talking about the frames in the memory of the file. So the structure of the file contains frames, and these frames, all of them, they have different features. We can put a map of these frames and see the editing or the deletion or the substitution or copy paste using this kind of analysis. And you see, we are in here, we are already in digital forensics, and we have to go hand by hand with the digital forensics, because today we deal with the digital signal. And let me just say a few words about the video. And as I said, again, there are general features, and there are inside frame editing traces. Something like intraframe, something like error level analysis, or something like gradient analysis, the image analysis. So we can try to find the problems in the imaging of the frame. But for the video analysis, the most important today is the analysis of the continuity of the video signal. And in here today, I can have, well, there are some methods that are developed for the continuity analysis, and they are very, very helpful. One of those we have already spoken. This is the brightness graph analysis. And as soon as we can treat it as the audio signal, we can apply all the methods of the instrumental analysis that we use in audio analysis. And then we can analyze the brightness dispersion for each pixel. This kind of analysis, this kind of method reveals the pixels or the areas of the frame that were frozen. So at the left-hand side, there is an image of the camera from the frame or from video file. And at the right-hand side, you see the black area that is calculated through all the file. So we detect the changes of the brightness of every pixel and reflect it as a summarize that picture. So in this way, we can prove the continuity or discontinuity of the video image. At the right-hand side, you see a small picture at the right-hand side. When there was someone was going, there was a person going, and we, just by this stable picture, we analyzed the total video flow. So we summarize the information from the video frames and we summarize it up, and by one picture we can evaluate the continuity of the video flow. Today, one more method that is available, this is the continuity of the timestamp. There are different layouts of a timestamp, and well, you can imagine if you have a 3 hours recording, of course, you will not be able to detect something like 10 seconds disappear. And of course, it's much better to have an automatic system that allows you to recognize the timestamp and to detect the continuity of the video. And yeah, okay, so and then we switch to the in-frame editing, and these are the histograms of the channels of video, and well, we can treat it as the histograms of samples in audio. We see that the right-hand side picture looks a bit compressed, being compared to the left-hand side picture. So this, at the left-hand side, we have the initial image. At the right-hand side, we have compressed image of the frame. This proves that the video was processed, that the video file was edited, or it was at least opened and saved in the or recorded in the video processing software. Okay, I will just run through gradient and error level analysis, which are today they are famous methods, and but still they are famous, but there are certain limitations for that, for the analysis or in-frame analysis, but they exist and help a lot. Error level analysis is about the degree of the compression of the image, and the gradient is about the borders of the objects. So we can trace that the borders are intact, the borders of the objects are intact, or in this way we can detect some insertions into the image of the frame. And but one more interesting feature that I wanted to discuss is the PRNU, which is the sensitivity of the matrix of the video recording device. There are certain peculiarities when the matrix is manufactured. The sensors of this matrix, they have different sensitivity, and that means that different pixels has different sensitivity, and it gives the impact to the video image. And if you have the device itself, you can even identify the device using not only the file header analysis, but using some physical principles and physical background for your analysis. Okay, so that was the last part was a fast run through, and now I welcome you with your questions that also can be answered in here. And
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much. The session is open for the questions. Anyone here who likes to have a question can ask one by one. Anyone? Yeah. Hello. It's Prateek, please.
Well, I posted a question.
You posted the question? Okay. Rehan, can you see the question from Mr. Prateek?
I can see, ma'am. Can I say? Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Ivan, Mr. Prateek has asked some. He has some set of questions. The first question is, which environmental factors affect the audio or speech of the individual?
Well, I'm trying to find this question out. Which environmental factors affect the audio or speech of an individual?
Yeah.
Well, of course, we usually there are traces of the scene itself. For example, we can evaluate the reverberation, and of course, if it is a video, we can also see what is the room. But if you have only audio, this is reverberation, and this is the time of the so how fast the signal decreases, and is it an open area or is it a closed area, and what is the material of the walls. So this kind of features always affect the speech recording. What is important is that the fact that our brain is subtracting features like the broadband noise. For example, we're sitting and there is an air conditioner, and well, we do not hear how the air conditioner is working. But when you start to investigate the audio, your brain is not in that condition. Your brain is well, everything is recorded, and there is no way to subtract it, or there is no way to. I mean, from the brain point of view, you hear everything. So this is one of the principle of the noise cancellation or speech enhancement. Just make a very good recording. Do not record in the concrete walls, and do not record on the streets or in the market where a lot of sources of noise come, because people are reading each other by the lips. They are communicating not only in an audio way, not only via audio channel, but also by the eyesight. And so we perceive the gestures, we perceive the way, the manner how the person is speaking. And all of these factors are absent when you deal with a real audio. Well, is that what you were asking about? Yeah.
Yeah. We have another question from Suchita Rawat. Which is the most useful software or most efficient forensic tool software for audio and video analysis together?
This is, of course, the question that every expert must answer to his own. So, because you must be sure that the methods developed and implemented in the software, they are how to say, they are reasonable and they are specified exactly for your purposes. So it is a must to use the specialized software application that were designed exactly for the purposes of the audio investigation. So, for example, there are some software application for medical purposes that are using for the analysis of this human voice. And well, of course, it can be used. Of course, this is the analysis of the voice, and the system extracts certain features. But the purpose, the initial purpose of this software was not the speaker voice identification. It was absolutely another scope. And this is important. So the software from the very beginning must be dedicated, must be created exactly for your study. And of course, as well, I cannot be silent. Of course, since I was participating in development of these software solutions. I use that. And
Okay.
today
I request all the participants to off the videos to avoid technical hitches, please. Okay. The next question is, except for frame analysis, except the forward software and MPEG, is any other software used for video analysis?
Yes, of course. So for audio analysis, this is the system called OT expert, and for video analysis, this is the system called VD expert. So these are the systems that they were created by experts and for experts for audio and video analysis.
Okay.
And
The next question is from Amit Chandra. Is the age factor affect the analysis of ELA in the degree of comparison? Is age factor affect?
age factor. I see this question, and let me let me read it once again. Is age factor affect the analysis of ELA in the degree comparison? I do not get it very clear. What is the age factor you're talking about?
From this point, are you there, Mr. Amit Chandra?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Yeah, Amit, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, please. What do you mean age factor? The compression algorithm. Yes, please.
Actually, we have some cases regarding it. There is a footage of CCTV camera, and a person is involved in accident in the year of 1970. Okay, 1970. Okay, and we have footage of recent. And how to compare this one in the comparison of degree comparison ELA?
Well, this seems to be a hard case, and well, it has to get some individual approach, because the compression algorithm, well, of course, it has changes, and you must be well accurate with that. From my side, I cannot give any kind of a general recommendation on that. So of course, you have to deal with the real with the real file and be quite accurate with that. No general recommendations here available, I believe.
Okay. Rehan and Ramya, do we have any other questions from the live streaming part?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, Ramya. No questions, Ramya?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No questions from the live stream.
Okay. Anything else from the session? Anyone who wants to go for the question or some kind of doubts which we need to clear? Ramya?
Hello.
Yeah.
I
know who's this?
This is Hemlata. I am Deputy Director of Forensic Sciences Department
Yes, ma'am.
from
Please.
Chennai.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have a question with Ivan. Like we receive lots of DVRs these days, which are not very much local in nature. So they use different codecs. So it is becoming really difficult in maintaining the resolution, and it is of low resolution in which these videos are taken. So what about analyzing these videos? So is it
Analyzing from what point of view?
Yeah.
From the improvement or point of view, or from enhancement point of view, or from the authenticity point?
No,
Because
I'm asking about the enhancement.
Yeah, but well, the enhancement of video is a really serious problem today, and of course, the resolution issue that you are talking about, this is a regular situation, and the problem is that since we get the reflection, get the trace, since it is recorded in a bad quality, well, it cannot be improved in such a way. You cannot add any information to that. And of course, this today we get a zoo of different formats, and zoo of different compression algorithms, and this is a real trouble. And sometimes you can get some information using different systems for the enhancement purposes, but of course the result is like not so often you get the not so often you get the good results.
Yeah,
this is true.
That's true.
And
Unless otherwise it's a good quality DVR or the reputed ones, we don't get a very good result with the, even if you use lots of enhancement techniques using amplify or anything, most of the time we don't get it. It is only for the DVRs,
well, we say,
quality DVRs.
yeah, we say that if it is lost, it is lost. So if it
Yeah.
is not recorded, it is not recorded. And well, if for audio, it is quite easy stuff. Like you can record the raw audio, you can record the PCM. For video, of course, it is not possible. Even with the different compression codecs that are available today, still it is such a heavy thing. Heavy meaning that imagine you are just making images, 25 images per second. So each image is 5 meg, and well, it is of course a very it is impossible to record the raw data, which is usually needed and required during your investigation of the case.
Yeah.
And from one point of view, we get the recording, but from the other point of view, we cannot use it. This is a regular city. This is a well-known problem, and it is all over the world today. And so we cannot expect some good result in the nearest future, speaking about the artificial intelligence that will draw something, add something to it, because this is not the forensic approach. So the only thing we have to deal with, this is a trace itself, and yes, the quality of this trace is poor, usually.
Thank you.
We have another question.
Yes, please.
From Dr. Vikrant Singh Thakur. Multiple codecs in single audio file, is that the identification of editing? Multiple codecs in single file.
Yeah, this is a trace of editing.
Yeah, it is a trace of editing. Okay.
Yeah, this is a definite trace of editing.
There was one question. Yeah.
Yes, please.
There is another question from Shruti Goswami. How to decrease the tampering, especially in the cases of rape evidences?
How to decrease?
Tampering.
How to? What is the question? How to decrease? What do you mean? How to decrease?
Decrease the tampering. We don't have her in the live session. It's from live streaming, so I cannot call her for the clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, she can mail you later.
Yeah.
She can mail you later. Thank you. So, anyone else from the house who wants to go for a? Anyone else? Okay. So, on behalf of Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, I, Dr. Pooja Ahuja, thank you all to be the part of the session and making this session live. I really want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the eminent speaker of this session, Mr. Ivan SIPAROV. And with this session, I'm taking away a lot to learn more into audio and video authentication systems. And I want to thank you for your shared knowledge, time, and sharing your practical approaches towards audio and video analysis. We'll be coming up with more sessions on this GFSU webinar series 2020, so stay tuned for it. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, one and all, for joining us for this session. It was a helpful and an effort-edging session for all of us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for.
But do share your feedbacks. The links are being shared in the chat box. Kindly share the feedback with us, and stay tuned for more live sessions on forensic science on GFSU webinar series. Thanks all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, and to all, and to, of course, to Dr. Pooja and Dr. Surbi and to all technical guys that helped us to provide this webinar, and also to commercial guys that made this acquaintance possible. And I'm very glad and very happy to share this information and to provide, to gather feedback and to participate in the discussions. And I think that it is very useful and brings very best to all of us. Thank you again.
Thank you.